All right, cool. Well, thank you guys for coming. Hopefully you're here to see marketers are friends, not food. Otherwise, you may be in the wrong place. All right, let's get started. So quickly, I'm just going to go through the agenda. I have a lot to cover today, so I might be going a little fast, but I will definitely be available for questions afterwards. First, I'll start with about me, intro, the important stuff. Then we're going to go into an NLP rank case study, which is going to take a look at how our research team at OpenDNS/Cisco worked with our comms team to great success. We're going to do a quick comms 101 review. So, who you should be working with, what to look for, what their jobs are, just to kind of give you more insight into what they do. Then we're going to talk about best practices. So help us help you. That's the whole point of this talk. We just want to make your lives easier, as hard as it is to believe. We're here for you. And then how to not go crazy while helping us help you. Just some tips on getting along with your marketing people. So this is what we'd like to avoid, ideally. All right, so about me, my name is Kah Drapala. I am a social media specialist at OpenDNS/Cisco. I've been with OpenDNS for about 2.5 years, mainly in charge of all of their social media outreach, but I also write for the blog and create some graphics and do all kinds of odds and ends stuff that just gets thrown into the comms bucket. You can reach me at kdraps on pretty much any social network. Especially Twitter. Some fun facts about me. Dessert is my favorite food. I'm a taiko drummer. If you want more information on that, I will talk your ear off. And I also recently started playing tabletop RPGs, which is really fun, actually. And my alignment is chaotic good, in case you were wondering. I saw some questioning looks. Okay, so why this talk? Why that little no circle in the bottom? These questions will all be answered shortly, but mainly I designed this talk to help you work better with your marketing and communications teams. So, researchers, engineers, they have very different processes and thought patterns compared to marketers. So hopefully we can all come out of this understanding each other a little bit better. And we're going to, as I said, cover best practices and also talk about some things that can sour the relationship and make things just really difficult on both ends. And ideally, you'll be able to take some of these things and just put them into practice right away on Monday. If you're answering emails over the weekend like I am, even sooner. So hopefully that will be the case, and maybe we'll have some fun, hopefully. So that's what the circle is for. It says welcome to the show, but apparently this is family friendly, so I had to censor that real quick. Okay, so NLP rank. Some of you may be familiar, but in March, one of our researchers, Jeremiah O'Connor, released one of his threat detection models, which focuses on natural language processing in order to detect phishing domains. So basically what he did was match up words, so like target with, say, support or Java or things that people might register as phishing sites, to kind of make this malicious dictionary of the internet or malicious language of the internet. And a militianary, yes, how we're hiring. Yeah, so basically we can figure out which domains they're going to be using before they actually use them. And so the people involved with this, Jeremiah O'Connor, the author of this, Andrew Hay, who many of you probably know, our curmudgeonly Canadian, is the director of our security labs. So he kind of handles a lot of media outreach and things like that. And then on the communication side, Stephen Lynch, who is our PR manager, as well as Lynn Cox, who's our vice president of communications. And it gets better, so here we go. So quick timeline of events. What happened? So the first thing is Jeremiah wrote a blog. And at OpenDNS, our researchers are kind of on a monthly, bi-monthly rotation, where they kind of go over their research, write up a quick blog. We go through the whole process of posting it to WordPress, which if you've ever used WordPress, you will understand this process. And then Andrew edits those blogs. He makes sure all the grammar is correct, make sure everything makes sense, make sure they're not just, train of consciousness word bubbles. We've had those before. It's interesting. So he kind of said, hey, comms team, this blog is something special, it's newsworthy, which is a very important thing we'll talk about later, but he kind of raised the flag on that one and said, hey, you guys should take a closer look at this, and we did. And we decided, like, hey, this is a really interesting threat detection model. We've never seen something like this before. Other people might be interested. So then we held several meetings to kind of determine how we were going to package this. So one of the things we'll get to later is that you can't just say, here's a thing, go. When you're dealing with media, they need a story, they need a message, they need a package. You put it together and tie a bow on top and say, here you go, here's our gift to you. So we had to do several strategy meetings. This is fairly complex. It's, pretty down the rabbit hole in terms of, using our product. And so we wanted to make sure we on the comms team understood everything. We also needed to get some context, because another thing we're going to talk about in a bit is that when you make these packages, you need to put the research in context of a bigger story. It's not always going to be enough to just say, here's this algorithm I wrote. So we talked to senior members of the team, in this case, DM Majub, and he gave us more context so we could frame it as a larger phishing story. And so we started pitching. It takes a while, a couple days to a couple weeks, depending on whether or not people are interested in your story. And the blog actually was picked up by numerous outlets. Ars Technica, Threat Post, that was pretty awesome. And Jeremiah is now world famous, and phishing is dead. That not actually what happened. Not exactly world famous, and phishing is still a little bit of a thing. So we're working on it though. So what happened here from a research perspective, if we kind of take a look? So the good things. Jeremiah seized an opportunity to do timely research that, oh my God, what happened? I'm not even doing a demo, and he's so angry. My mouse? It's freaking out, you guys. I don't know. Ugh. Okay. Plug it back in. Where am I going to here? No, wow. It really didn't like that slide. I don't know. I thought it was pretty good, but okay.
Screen's flashing. Go ahead and keep going.
Okay, well, let's see how I do without my slides. All right, this is getting real, you guys. Okay, so the good things, he seized a research opportunity to do something interesting and timely that people would find interesting. And, he's still working on NLP rank. He got such great response from it that he's able to, put it into production, keep working on it, keep getting resources directed towards it, which doesn't always happen with research that people do that kind of is, super esoteric and really down in the weeds. So that's pretty cool. Let's see. I'm not doing well without my slides. Okay. So he took it from a research perspective into, something that the media could consume, which is a really interesting process for a researcher to go through. It's totally different from, communicating with another researcher. which everyone should experience at least once. So some of the not so great things, he had to let go of a little bit of control. When you have research, it's your baby. It can be a little difficult to hand it over to a PR person and say, all right, make the changes you need to make to get this out into the world. In his case, it was the naming of it. NLP rank used to be called Percival. So kind of a weird origin story there. They wanted everything to be named after Knights of the Round Table for some reason. So we changed that to NLP rank, a little bit more digestible. And the bad things were that he ended up doing so much marketing and blog work that it took away from development time, which, for a researcher, that can be really irritating and not, something they want to do. And we also made him do a video, which according to him was the worst experience of his life. So I don't think it was that bad, but that's me. Yeah, I don't know, this is going. Anyway, from a comms perspective, we worked with a research team and it was successful. So they followed the process, which, can be a challenge to get them to do that, especially when, it's a marketing thing. We need to look it over for edits and we need to make sure, reporters understand it, and that's boring and they don't want to work on that. But it needs to happen. So the process actually worked this time and it was really successful, and they saw that it was successful, which is really important in terms of positive reinforcement. Should I keep going? Okay. Pull it. Okay. Yeah, that would be great. All right, well, I get to see the slides. Okay, so what else happened? The bad things for us was that it kind of interrupted our content schedule. So, when you're in communications, you plan out months ahead of time what's going on. And when something like this drops in your lap, it takes a couple weeks to kind of pick up your schedule again, and you have to add this in. And, comms is always getting interrupted with stuff. So it can be a little challenging when something like this pops up. And another bad thing was that we had to work double time to prove to our research team that we were capable of telling this story the way that they needed it to be told. So not having that trust is a little difficult. And then after the trust was established, making sure the story was actually told that way with all stakeholders being happy. Okay, so what happened? The results were that we actually established a working relationship. They saw the process worked, and now they're actually utilizing the process. We get pings from the research team all the time now, which is great and totally different from everything we had before. So that's pretty cool. We got a lot of coverage, and for a company that's trying to establish itself as a security player, that's really invaluable to be seen doing innovative research. And Jeremiah's profile also increased, which is great. He's still doing talks on NLP rank to this day. So, he really benefited as well from that whole thing. And some quick takeaways. Communication is key. It is the most important thing you can walk away from this talk knowing, because if Andrew had never flagged that post, if he had never said, hey, I think this is interesting, I think it's newsworthy, we never would have heard about it. It would have gone on the blog, we would have tweeted about it 3 times, and it would have faded away into obscurity. So him kind of raising his hand really set this whole chain of events off. Also, research needs to be impactful. It needs to play into a larger story and needs to have real world value for people. They aren't going to understand some, it could be incredibly innovative and interesting to you and your 3 cubicle buddies, but once you put it out into the world, it needs a little bit more to support. It needs to be digestible for all audiences. And another thing that I kind of glossed over, Andrew did most of the talking to the press when we, did these interviews, because Jeremiah's not media trained. And when you have these opportunities to speak to reporters, you need to hit it out of the park the first time. It needs to be perfect, because you don't want to waste their time. And if they're giving you a shot and you blow it, chances are they're not going to give you a shot next time. So it's really important to have someone who's polished and knows exactly what they're talking about deal with reporters. And reporters are not researchers, which we're going to dive into now. So there's a lot of differences. And the reason you need someone who has that polish is because they're not similar to researchers. It's totally different universes. So they need things explained in a way they can understand. They're not in your company. They're dealing with multiple stories at a time. And to be honest, you're not always going to deal with a Steve Reagan or a Brian Krebs. I mean, these people might not know what a botnet is. That's the level we might have to start with. So having a go-between, having, a comms person or someone who's used to dealing with the media can really kind of ease that transition and can tell your story understandably to the press. And another thing about researcher or reporters is that they want to see some blood. They are bloodthirsty. They want to see a hacked car. They want to see you jackpot an ATM on stage. They need to see something tangible, a smoking gun, a dead body. And if your research doesn't have that, it's even more vital that it ties into a larger trend story to give it some legs. So I'm going to try to change my slides. I don't think that's going to happen. No. Okay. So Comms 101, who should you be looking for to do all these wonderful things for you? So people in your organization who have communications or public relations in the title are probably going to be your best bet to start off with, although that can vary depending on the size of your company. Especially people, if you're in a business group or a unit that focuses on security and you have your own dedicated marketing or communications team, those people are going to be the best to work with you because they're already going to know, they should already have, some technical understanding of what you're talking about. And hopefully it'll be a little easier to get things off the ground. Oh my God, the screen's not flashing. Well, okay. I spoke too soon. I'm just not going to touch it. So the other thing to be aware of is whether you're working with with an internal or external team. So your company may have an agency that they work with as well as an internal team, or they may just work with an agency. So the important thing there is to remember to keep your corporate person looped in with everything. So the worst thing is a surprise. That's the last thing your comms team needs. So just remember to make sure someone knows what you're doing at all times.
Does anybody have a mini display port to VGA adapter on, please? Anyone?
One free high five to anyone with an adapter. Okay, so you found your comms person. What exactly do they do? A comms team can have multiple functions within your organization. They can do media outreach. They can do media planning. So like I said, they work out schedules several months in advance. They know what's coming down the pipeline. They know what the overall company marketing objectives are. And they're going to make sure that when they pitch your story to the media, it fits within those marketing strategies. So we can keep going back to it again and again and again and add additional resources. Whoa, okay, it's doing weird things. They can cover social media. They can cover media training, which is really nice if you want to become that spokesperson for the company. If you want to get that polish, they'll introduce you to friendly reporters. They'll do one-on-one training with you. I believe they're doing media training tomorrow in the I Am the Cavalry track if you guys are interested in that. So definitely see how that goes. They also handle executive communications. So when your CEO writes an email, chances are someone on the comms team actually wrote that email. And they do crisis comms as well. So if something happens, if you present at a conference and Samsung is coming down on you litigiously because of something you said, your lawyers and your comms team are going to be there to protect you. If, the press is calling, you'll have someone from public relations sitting with you every time, making sure that a reporter is not overstepping their bounds and they're keeping the interview on track. Okay, I'm just going to advance my own slides. So what can comms do for you outside of those things, specifically as a researcher or an engineer. They can translate for you. So they can take that super down in the weeds research that you're doing and translate it to, a mainstream audience. They can also help you sell it internally as well. So basically, anytime you need to put a presentation together or you need to, market yourself, they can help you do that. Personal brand building is also something they can help with. They can, as I said, media training. So they'll be able to give you that polish. And then editing, which is always a contentious topic. So they can help you write blogs. They can help you write research reports, white papers, and even abstracts. If you're submitting to a conference, you can send it through your PR team and say, hey, does this make sense? Is this appealing? Will someone want to come and listen to this talk? Hopefully they'll help you out with that. Oh my God. For a second.
I need more mini display for VJs.
It's green. Okay.
Oh, shit. That usually means it's just not seated well. Yeah, go ahead and bring it up, and I'm gonna try to work on making the color better.
That's okay. I like green. Do you guys like? You guys are cool with green? Okay. Yeah. All right. So quickly, damn it. Okay. Helping us help you pro tips. Just going quickly through this again. Communication is key. I can't stress that enough. It's the most important thing. Make sure those lines are open. Have your PR guy take you for a drink after work or take you out to lunch. Like, work that marketing budget. They are going to be so happy you're actually talking to them, they won't care. So, you utilize that. Even if it's a weekly email, it'll help them keep track of stories that might be newsworthy ahead of time, and they can start working on the message sooner so you don't have to drop everything and do all these boring meetings. Also, understand that we're not the fun police. If we're not your babysitters, we're not a censorship body. If we had to take something out or change something about your research, there's probably a bigger reason. If it didn't align with company goals, or it was, too out there, or, something happened. This goes through so many layers of approval. It's not like we're saying, well, Jeremiah, this is just, we're striking it. We're redlining it because, we don't like you. It's not how we play ball. And be ready to explain how your work affects a larger audience. Have that context. If you have an idea of the context and we don't have to go hunt it down, that'll save you a lot of time and stress. Be okay with hearing no. So sometimes we may say, we're going to have to redline half of this. And another time we might say, we just can't go with this at all. And again, it's not personal. I asked our PR guy about this, and his response was, kill the baby. So, your research is your baby, and you just need to make sure you're okay with having people change it and make it more digestible for a mainstream palate. And finally, don't blow us off. Despite all outward appearances, we're subject matter experts as much as you are subject matter experts. So when it comes to that, you need to trust that it's our job to watch the news. It's our job to know what's going on, and we can give you the best message. We can tell you the best way to kind of promote that idea to a larger audience. And then finally, committing for the long haul. So this can happen a lot if you're not used to dealing with marketing or the media, is that you do one interview and you're like, well, I'm done forever. That's not exactly the case. We don't dictate when a reporter calls up and says, hey, I want a quote for this story. Sometimes you're going to have to do 2 interviews or 5 interviews or 10 interviews. And yeah, they're probably all going to be the same boring questions. But you need to be available, because that relationship with that reporter is hinging on the fact that we promise them you and your research. And if we don't deliver, it makes us look really bad. And that reporter is probably not going to come back. Okay, so getting help without getting crazy. This hopefully will help you keep your zen. Patience, I can't stress this enough. sometimes we're not going to get a concept right away. We don't live in the research as much as you do, so it can be a little difficult at times. You might have to employ the explain it like I'm five model, but just stick with us. We're going to stick with you. So just keep trying and eventually we'll get it. And attribution is hard. Trust is also hard. It's hard to hand over, 6 months work and say, okay, I trust you to take this and, give it to the media, give it its best shot. But you need to kind of step back, kill the baby, as it were, and just, let us do our thing. And if your comms team is the worst, because there are really bad comms people out there, you have options. So you can work with your product management or product marketing organization. They also work really closely with the comms team, and they generally have a little bit more of a technical background. So they might be a little more understanding of your research and how it affects the product and can give it a better contextual spin. So if you really can't stand your PR guy, try your PMM. Again, be cool with edits. Technical edits are great. So if we're not explaining something accurately about your algorithm or a program you wrote, please let us know. We would much rather get everything right the first time. But if it's edits about the message, like I don't think you're telling this story right, we've sat in powwows for hours and hours coming up with this message. It is rock solid and we are going with it. So you're going to kind of have to swallow that pill and just let us do our thing. So there are some red flags too. If you maybe aren't sure if your comms person is the worst, here's how you can tell. If they don't ask questions after you've explained something to them, chances are they weren't listening to you or they think they know what they're talking about. And another red flag is if they can't explain what you just explained back to you in a more simple yet accurate manner, they didn't listen to you at all. And here's some red flags on the other side. So we'll quickly go through this. How to get on the bad side of comms. Acting out on your own. You may know a reporter really well, like you may have Brian Krebs' personal phone number, but please don't call him up and say, hey, I've got the next APT1 report, let's do this. You need to go through your comms organization because there may be some things in play that you're not sure of. Okay, I'm getting the signs, so I'm going to go really quickly through the rest of these. Not cooperating or communicating. Like we said, ditching interviews, can't do that. That's almost the worst thing you can do. Missing deadlines and not letting your team know, that's also really awful. We can work with you to try to make it happen. Taking things personally, lashing out at reporters or third parties and worried about things you shouldn't be worrying about, let us handle that. Our job is very stressful too, so we can do it. If you remember nothing else, communication is key, patience is a virtue, be prepared to get edited and hear the word no, it's going to happen. Remember that we're on your side, we're here for you to make you look as good as you possibly can, and we're professionals, it's our job to do that, so let us do it. And also, reporters do not equal researchers, so don't think that they operate on the same level. It is just bad news. So that's everything for me. Here's my email, kdrapala@cisco.com. Also at kdraps on Twitter. If you have any questions, I'll be around. Sorry for all the video.